Hello and welcome to the Beef Edge, the Teagasc Beef Podcast, for all your latest news, information and advice for Irish beef farmers. I'm Catherine Egan, and on this week's episode, I'm joined by Teagasc Researcher Dr. David Wall with top tips to manage soil fertility for the rest of the year and the upcoming Johnstown Castle Open Day. David, you're very welcome. It's been an expensive year on farms in relation to fertiliser prices. What does the forecast look like for the rest of the year and into the spring?
It's been a tough 2022 on farms out there in terms of cost hikes, fertiliser and now also feed coming through in the back end. Look at the situation is evolving on the ground. The fertiliser supply issue has been sorted to some degree. So we do have some supply. However, the cost of natural gas is still high and the cost of transport is still high. So we're looking at probably this continuing on into the spring of next year and maybe beyond that. So I would, as a farmer or whatever, I'd be planning for high fertilizer prices to continue into the spring next year. And I suppose to be planning for that and put a strategy in place on the farm to combat that so that we can have enough fodder and look after the silage, the winter fodder for next year.
And as a result of that, David, has there been an increase this year in the amount of lime being applied on farms?
Yeah, look at Catherine, farmers have reacted very positively, I would say, in terms of this scenario or this I suppose issue that's come up upon them in terms of fertilizer and even fertilizer shortage this year. Lime use has gone up, I would say, in the last 2 years, but particularly last year and into this year, it's continuing there. We were about 1.3 million tonnes. If you think about for the last 2 decades, we were using about 750,000 tonnes of lime. So we've gone up over the million mark in terms of lime tonnage. And I suppose where that's really paying dividends there is in terms of getting some of the nutrients back out of the soil. So lime is the key there for turning the switch on the nutrients. And nitrogen, if we take nitrogen as an example, we're getting somewhere between 60 and 80 units of nitrogen per acre for free, where soils are limed up to the optimum of a pH of 6.3 for grassland.
And at this stage of the year, for farmers that have a low pH, when would be the ideal time for applying lime?
Yeah, look at a very important area. My rule of thumb with lime is use every opportunity to get the liming done. If you leave it too late or you try to do it around grazing rotations or silage or whatever, there's opportunities there throughout the year. Soils are firm. I suppose the grazing rotation has moved out now that the silage ground is back in the grazing platform at the moment. So there is opportunities there on farms to get lime out. Traveling at the moment, even in terms of heavier ground, is going to be a lot easier now that soils are relatively dry. So I would say use the opportunities now right out to the back end of the year. Traditionally, we would have said lime in the back end, but I would say there's opportunities after silage that might be gone now at this point of the year. There might be some second cuts still coming out. So while there's a grass stubble there is a perfect opportunity for getting the liming done.
And how soon after the lime is applied can farmers let stock back into graze?
Once you get a little bit of wash down with bigger animals in particular, animals that are I suppose on their home straight in terms of finishing, those animals will have less of a reaction to ingesting a little bit of lime. Younger animals, I suppose you'd want to leave it for a little bit of wash down off the grass. And that's why I say, where paddocks are grazed out or post silage, after spreading the slurry, if you have slurry to spread on that silage ground, come back 10 days later and there's no problem with spreading lime.
There's been a focus on many farms to incorporate clover, but before such action, I suppose soil fertility has to be addressed. What can farmers be doing now in the coming weeks in advance of incorporating clover next year?
Yeah, look at a very timely area in terms of goes hand in glove with lime now as well here. So clover is a plant that likes a higher pH than perennial ryegrass. So we would want to be pushing the pH up there around 6.8 for a grass clover sward, and I suppose getting the liming done now so that the soil has, I suppose that acidity in the soil is neutralized for next year. Now is the time to do it. There's many people doing it right at the time of reseeding. They're putting it into the seed bed, etc. But we can have that done ahead of time. Also, I would say for clover, your P and Ks need to be correct for a clover sward, for persistence. And for that longevity of that sward, for that clover to strike. It's a very small seed, as most farmers will know, in the seed mix, and it needs that energy in terms of phosphorus in the soil to help it kick off and help it germinate and grow. So look, at working on lime is something that certainly can be done in the back end now. And I would say target those fields with slurries, either in the remainder of the slurry in the tank now or in the spring of the year, to try to build P and K there on that ground.
And overall, grass growth has been good this year, David, and surpluses have been taken off as bales on many farms. What would you be advising farmers to do for the rest of the year?
Yeah, look at where bales have come off. There's a big offtake of phosphorus and potassium, P and K. So where you're taking off a lighter cut of silage, it mightn't be as heavy as your first cut, you know, where you're getting, we'll say 8, 10, maybe even up to 12 bales per acre off a field. There's a significant amount of P and K being carted off in those bales, and we need to think about putting it back. As a rule of thumb, a ton of dry matter will remove 5 kilograms per hectare of P and 25 kilograms per hectare of K. So in all money, that's about 4 units of P and about 20 units of K per acre. So we do need to be thinking about putting that back. If we were cutting the equivalent of 2.5 tons of dry matter, you know, a medium cut of silage taken off as bales, we're removing something in the order of 12, 13 units of phosphorus, but we're removing a significant amount of K, of potash, upwards of 35, 40 units of potash. And following that with the slurry tanker is probably the key thing. If there's slurry in the tank at the moment, now is the time to get it out. Don't leave it till the weather turns bad and to the back end, you know, follow those paddocks. If it hasn't been done even after first cut, there's an opportunity now to get out. Now that things have calmed down on farms, the grazing rotation has moved out. So we do need to be following those paddocks with slurry. If slurry is not an option, what I would say is we need to be thinking about getting some compound when you're doing your purchases for next year. It mightn't happen in the back end due to availability or cash flow, but we do need to be thinking about hitting those paddocks with some compound early in the spring.
That's great, David. And it's a month out now from the chemical nitrogen deadline, the 15th September. What would you be advising listeners to do?
Yeah, so where farmers are trying to build some grass for the back end to extend the grazing season, I suppose we do need to be thinking about getting those last splits of nitrogen or if it's a compound out before the 15th of September. So we don't want to leave it too late. In areas that have received rain up to now and soils are not too dry, I would be saying complete that split now into the middle of August. Try to target that up around the 15th, 20th of August, so that there's a good lead-in time for that nitrogen to work in warm soils and for that grass to begin to kick off and grow out there so that we have it into September and October. If we leave it too late, there's a chance that the weather will turn bad and that nitrogen won't be utilized as well. For other areas that are experience more droughty or dry conditions in the east and parts of the south, what I would say there is maybe wait till we get some rain, but again, try to apply that nitrogen as early as possible. Equivalent of 20, 25 units will probably be sufficient there to build enough grass, given the length of the rotation growing into the back end.
And preparations are well underway at the moment, David, for Johnstown Castle Open Day. What can farmers expect to see on the day?
Yeah, so we're hosting an open day in the southeast. The open day is farming for a better future, and we'll show technologies, I suppose, for today and for tomorrow. So in terms of what farmers will see when they come, it's on Tuesday, the 30th of August. So right at the end of the summer. We're hoping for a big crowd, and I suppose we want to demonstrate some of the good work that's going on within Teagasc. The grass clover and multi-species swards work. So at Johnstown Castle, we have both the dairy beef animals and the dairy herd operating on multi-species sward. So that's, I suppose, an exciting new project. There's been a lot of interest there from farmers in terms of how that works. And I suppose what we're demonstrating there is a capacity to reduce reliance on fertilizers, but particularly chemical fertilizers with the clover in the swards. Fertilizer and slurry technologies is another big area, I suppose. Get the latest information on slurry technologies. Also in terms of additives there's a lot of work after going on in terms of slurry additives that we'll be demonstrating and showing, low emission slurry spreading, and also protected urea, and some exciting new work on compounds. The biodiversity opportunities to increase biodiversity and manage hedgerows on farms, including the whole carbon sequestration piece, will be on show. We will have the latest on the dairy beef systems and dairy cow, including the winter milk nutrition, which might be of interest to farmers out there. The signpost program would be front and center in terms of, I suppose, technologies to combat or mitigate against climate change. And I suppose that's very topical in the news at the moment. And farmers can come and see how they can do their bit and protect their business in terms of climate action and climate action program. Teagasc Advisory and Education will be there on the day, I suppose, also to discuss the new acre scheme. And for those young farmers coming into farming, the education side, you can find out what courses are available. We're partnering with the Farmers Journal on the day, and at the event we'll have a machinery demonstration there for oversown clover. So as we mentioned in our conversation there, different methods for oversown clover. The low emission slurry spreading machinery will be there as well, and also calibration of fertilizer spreaders to get it right there where spreading protected urea. So all in all, it'll be an action-packed day. We're expecting a big crowd, so come to the southeast, I suppose, on the 30th of August, Johnstown Castle. It's an easy place to get to on the main roads there, and all are welcome.
Thanks, David. It sounds like a great day, and I'm sure listeners are looking forward to attend across numerous enterprises. Thanks, David.
Thanks, Catherine.
That's all for this week's episode, and my thanks to David for joining me on the show. We are currently running a survey to find out how the Beef Edge podcast is of use to you. And if you click on the link in the podcast notes to complete the survey, it will help us to improve the show. In the meantime, you can catch up on all other shows and interviews from the Beef Edge podcast on the Teagasc website at teagasc.ie, or you can listen on Apple and Google Podcasts as well as Spotify. Don't forget to rate, review and subscribe so you never miss a show. For all other updates from our beef programme, keep an eye on our Twitter and Facebook pages. Until next time, I'm Catherine Egan, and thanks for listening.